Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert. And welcome back to my podcast, My Moodies. Back to my podcast, The Morning Mood. And I have decided that you will all be called Moodies. I hope you like it. I've taken this off another comedian that I follow. She has Prince, her princess friends. So thank you for the inspiration on that one. But y'all, you Moodies. So I have just been talking to you guys about scale. We had a podcast about building for scale, and I talked to you about the three things that you need to do to build for scale. And 1A and 1B are you need to understand your problem very clearly, and you need to understand where you're going to go in about 5 years. Where are you going to try to be in 5 years? And I know 5 years seems like forever, but there's a reason for that. It's called your North Star. And if you don't know what direction you're going in, you're just going to go in circles. So 5 years is very important. Go back to the podcast if you want to hear more about that because I really kind of got deep on that, which is why I ran out of time. So that's why you're back talking about flexibility. But number one, 1A, 1B, is being clear about what it is that you're trying to achieve. And a financial number cannot be it. We're gonna argue about that later with some finance people. But finance is a financial gain is or loss is the output of a goal, not the goal. And you need to have at least a 3-year vision. We'll call them visions, roadmaps. 5 is best, even if it's squishy at the end, even if it's squishy at the end. So flexibility, we're going to get deep into the flexibility. So I talked a little bit about earlier about flexibility and how Andrew and I were able to move very quick and very fast and build things that were scalable because we were flexible about how it happened. We didn't get wrapped up in that I needed something new or special or individual. What we focused on were what were the outcomes that we needed for each step and what's the fastest, most efficient way to get that. Not new, not rebuilt for me, not da 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 da. What exists? And I gave you guys an example, a great example of how we reused attributes in the product catalog versus rebuilding the whole product catalog or asking for new attributes to be added to the product catalog because that was actually what the holdup was. So we didn't do that. We said, look, there's got to be some attributes you're not only already using. Let's just use those, right? Let's just use those attributes. We don't need special attributes. All I need is the data and I need my system to be able to pull it. That's it. Where it comes from, what you call it, what color it is, what shape it is. I don't care. I just need the outcome. That is what is so important about flexibility and building for scale. Because when people get caught up on the how, it has to be this specific way, unless there is a regulatory requirement or a code performance requirement or just a performance requirement, period, that dictates that how, get the hell out of the way. Stop focusing on that. Let it happen. Outcome. We got a way to make it happen. Done. Is it scalable? Will it work more than once? Will it work more than 100 times? Will it work more than 1,000 times? Will it work more than 1,000 times in a minute? Okay, great. That's what we need. Let's go. Run. Don't get caught up on the how. The how needs to be scalable. It needs to be stable, and it needs to meet the requirement. But it does not need to be new. It does not need to be special, and it doesn't need to be individual. And that is the biggest thing that kills scale is specialness. Part of flexibility is work with the most common denominator. One of the reasons we were able to add so many products in so many countries so quickly is that we grouped them by common denominators. One of the first products, hard products that we started with at Amazon, hard products are anything other than books, not BMVD. So we had hard goods and soft goods. So hard goods were jewelry, soft goods, clothes. Or you get it. If it's squishy, it's soft, it's not, it's hard. You tracking, all right? Don't make me do this heavy thing in the morning. Okay. So one of the first hard goods that we started with was jewelry because jewelry didn't have a lot of export requirements. Not really import requirements, a few, some nickel and things like that. Can't have nickel in the metals in Europe. And the HTS and classifications were pretty basic. They weren't real nuanced, like compared to things like shoes, right? They get like really into a lot of details. So we started with the most common denominator. We also grouped countries together. The EU being knock those babies out in no time because they all had very common requirements. That is the most common denominator. That gives you flexibility because now you're able to solve for a bunch of stuff, right? A bunch of use cases all at once. And you're able to start testing and learning, testing and learning, testing and learning. Here we go. We've got jewelry, we're exporting, we're seeing what the customers are doing, we're understanding how it's working. All of this stuff is happening, right? If we had gone in there and started with a really tough product category like shoes, we'd have never made it. We would have never scaled at the speed that we did because we'd have still been sitting there trying to figure out how to classify shoes because shoe classifications are forever long and they have all kinds of details and it would have killed us. Ultimately, a few years down the road, couple years actually down the road, we ended up using shoes as our first product category that we automated classification for because of all the complexity. And we actually had a catalog when we built Endless at Amazon. You guys might remember Endless Shoes. One of the things about Endless Shoes is that they wanted to provide all of the details about a shoe so that when you bought it, you had high confidence, right? So that meant the catalog had all the attributes of a shoe, which meant we could automate classification. But that came years down the road after we could automate it. But we started with the least, the smallest common denominator. It's the only way to build for scale. And I see companies do this all the time, especially startups, they go after a special use case within their whole product and they focus on that. And that's about all they ever get. Common denominator is where you go. That is part of flexibility. Focus on the outcome, common denominator. Nobody scaled being special. Special does not scale. It does not. That is what flexibility is about. The other part of flexibility is learning as you go. When you build with flexibility, if you build with common denominators, you can figure out what's going on and learn from the big brushstrokes and apply that to the details that are going to come later. You can understand how customers are behaving and try to apply that to how they may react to a more nuanced product. What are the risks that we're going to introduce as we go towards these more specialized products, as we go towards these processes that are more nuanced and complicated? What risk do we continue to introduce as we do this? But the beauty of building at scale and building with flexibility is that you've started something already and you're testing and learning, which means you have a product that is producing money, that's being sold, that's getting customers, it's making customer experience better, whatever it is, whatever its purpose is. It is out there performing its purpose and you are making it better every day and you're adding to it. In our situation, what we were doing is adding more countries and more products every single day. How many products can we add every single day? We needed to add like 1,000,000 products a week at one point. Yeah, that's a lot of damn products. And guess what? Amazon Global Business wasn't just from Amazon.com. It went to all of the Amazon marketplaces. So you have to have flexibility because all of the requirements are not the same in every single country. So if we had gone out and built everything specific to the United States, we would have never been able to scale into Europe, into Canada, into all of the other countries. Common denominator. Start with the biggest, broadest, most vanilla thing and keep going and keep making it better. That is the key to flexibility because in that process, you are flexible. You have not built yourself into a corner. Back to what I said about understanding where you want to be in 5 years. If you do not have a vision, if you do not have a North Star, The North Star, anybody who's done hiking, camping, boating, yachting, exploring, anybody, your North Star never changes. You may tack back and forth, you may get on the wrong trail, but you're still focused on the North Star. That is what flexibility is about. When you build for what you think you're going to do in the next 6 months, you've built yourself into a corner. And when you get to 6 months, you got to build again. It's why it doesn't work. You pick your North Star and you stay flexible. You build, you learn, you build, you learn, you build, you learn, you tack, you get off the trail, you come back. You're still focused on the North Star. You're still making progress towards the North Star. If you don't have flexibility, you can't do that. When you commit, when you take your eye off that North Star, and this is where and I'm going to break it down for you because this is actually where it happens. North Star 5-year plan, it's getting hard. 18 months in, things are getting a little whirly. People are getting frustrated. We're running out of money. We're still marching towards that North Star, but it's taking a little bit more time than we want. A lot of companies will do this. Mm, mm, I'm not going to go towards the North Star anymore. We're going to go check out these islands because they look really fun. And that's what they do. They take their eye off the North Star. They go towards something that looks easy and quick. That's right here, a quick win, low hanging fruit, all these little terms for it. And sometimes low hanging fruit is great and you should take that. But they go for a quick win and they get away from the North Star. They take their eye off of the North Star and they paint themselves, code themselves, build themselves into a corner because they focused on this thing over here, which is what are we going to do in 6 months? And they forgot about where they're kind of trying to get in the next 5 years. And when you do that, when you get over here, you got to rebuild. It won't scale because you took a niche, you took a focus, you took something very specific that looked like it was a shortcut. And now you're lost in the woods. And you got to backtrack, basically. If we're going to put this in explorer terms, you got to backtrack. Focus on the North Star. Stay flexible. The other part of staying flexible is customer feedback. The whole point of building this stuff is so that somebody will buy it, right? That's the whole damn point. Or use it or want it or whatever it is. Part of that North Star, that flexible philosophy is that you can take in customer feedback. You can see how the customer is reacting. You can see how it's performing. You can see how it's reacting with its other partners within the tech ecosystem. Is it jamming stuff up? Is it backward compatible? All that stuff, right? You can figure all that out while you're building and testing and learning and moving forward. When you paint yourself into a corner, when you're only focused on 6 months to a year, one, you're not even thinking about all these things, and you're not leaving yourself open to incorporate them in your solution in the future. Now, I'm not saying we have to look into the future and know exactly what we're going to build. We all know that's not possible. But if you can look at your roadmap and you can say, in 6 months, I need to be here, but in 12 months, I need to be here. But in 12 months, we don't know exactly how many products we're going to have. So we need to keep it open. We don't want to limit our product catalog. That is a great example of how just having a vision, having an idea of where you want to go will keep you from building something too small, from building a limited product catalog that you then again in a year have to rebuild. Rebuilding the product catalog, I've already mentioned it in the previous pod. Lord, help you. Nothing scarier. Stay flexible. Learn, build, learn, build. Keep it on the North Star. You may go tacking side to side. You might even have to make a pit stop, but you're still moving in the right direction. And if you don't keep flexibility in your business processes, in your strategy, and in your tech build, you, one, will not be able to move fast. And two, you will constantly be rebuilding, which is, and you will not meet your North Star. You won't get there. I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to get there. You'll get short of it. You might like land on your West Star, but it's not going to be your North Star. Flexibility is the key to building for scale. and it's absolute opposite of what anybody ever expect. So that's my deep dive on flexibility and scale. Just coming off the first podcast on scale, and I think it's super important for you guys to understand why flexibility matters. And it is not what anyone ever expects me to tell them, because people always feel that if you're going to build for scale, you need to be rigid, defined, all of these things. The things is that you don't know what's going to come up as you're on this journey. You can't prepare for all of it, but you can be prepared to deal with what comes up. And that's what flexibility is all about. All right, my Moody's, that's me on scalability. And the key to it, key number 2 is flexibility. And we're going to do another podcast on storytelling, because that is another deep topic I want to talk to you guys about. So thanks for tuning in, listening to me talk to you about scalability and flexibility. Think about this. What are your goals that you're trying to accomplish? What's your 5-year vision? Have you painted yourself in a corner? Think about it. All right. We will chat tomorrow.